If you've been resisting the idea of choosing a niche, especially as a VA, social media manager, or service provider, this is your wake-up call. Because being a generalist might feel like you're keeping more doors open, but in reality, you're making it harder for people to say yes to you. Back in Business is the unfiltered podcast for service providers, founders, and women in business who are done pretending it's all smooth sailing. This is the real, slightly chaotic, often hilarious side of business, the part you don't see, but absolutely need to hear. Join me, Kim Zodjva, business operations consultant and multiple business owner, as I share honest conversations from my own journey and fellow businesswomen. We go behind the brand to talk about the moments that shape our businesses, big wins, fuck-ups, mindset shifts, strategy, and everything in between. This is Business, unfiltered, and you're not doing it alone. This conversation comes up a lot. I'll post something about niching down, or one of my clients will, and straight away someone in the comments will say something like, but being a general VA is better because I get to work with everyone. Or they'll say things like, I don't want to limit myself, I can help all industries. And I get it. I know where that mindset comes from because I've done it. And it feels safer to be more broad. It feels like saying yes to everything will bring in more work. But in reality, it doesn't. It does not work like that. And here is why. When you try to appeal to everyone, you end up resonating with nobody. Your messaging becomes vague, your service list looks like a menu, and your potential clients can't figure out what you're actually good at. Especially if you're a VA or a social media manager, niching down helps in two major ways. First, it helps you attract and speak to the right people. Secondly, it creates an internal mechanism in your business that makes everything run smoother. And in the long run, that means you can charge more, work less, and deliver better results. The phrase jack of all trades, master of none gets thrown around a lot, but it's so true. When you're trying to serve everyone, you're constantly learning new systems, new tools, and new strategies. You're switching up gears every day. 1 minute you could be doing Pinterest strategies for a wedding florist. The next you could be setting up an email automation for a coach, and then writing product descriptions on Spotify or Etsy. And I know that because I did it, and it's absolutely exhausting. And it's not scalable. Now, if you do choose a niche, for example, let's say you're a VA or a social media manager who wants to support coaches in, let's say, the wellness space, what happens? You start getting really familiar with the platforms they use, such as like Kajabi, Podia, Kartra, all those type of coaching platforms. You start to learn the language that they speak, and you understand what their audience or their clients need. You know the goals they're working towards, and the content converts, because it's not going to be the same, but it's going to be very similar. And when you stop guessing, you can start positioning yourself as the go-to expert. Your services will get tighter, your messaging will get clearer, your back-end systems will become repeatable, and you can use templates because you're doing similar work across the board. So it'll just be like an infill and customized to each client rather than starting from zero dot. Whole systems that everything's will become more efficient, which means your time is used better and your work is stronger, which means your income will be maximized. And I've seen this over and over again, even with myself. It took a long time for me to learn this. One of my long-term clients, Nadine, who runs the social shells and coaches social media managers, explains it perfectly in her course. She always says, imagine walking into a room of 100 people from completely different industries. You start pitching yourself as a general VA or social media manager, and most people are going to tune out. They don't know who you're talking to. They don't think you're talking to them, and you'll probably come away with minimum or no sales. Now, let's flip that and imagine walking into a room of coaches. And that's who you specialise in. You're specialising in coaches. Suddenly, most of the room is listening. Your messaging becomes relevant. Your experience makes sense to them. And they start thinking, actually, she gets it. And maybe her services are interesting to me. And it's the same thing when you're showcasing your results. It's no use Showing your engagement stats for a phone case e-commerce brand to someone who sells weight loss coaching, the strategy behind those two businesses is completely different. The platforms are different, the metrics are different, the customer journey is different. So if you're a VA and you're applying for a role that requires Kajabi or Kartra or Thrivecart experience, and you've only ever worked with, let's say, Shopify and Etsy, there's a strong chance you won't be shortlisted because someone else will have that niche experience. And in a competitive market, that can be the difference between getting the job or not. So niching down doesn't limit your growth, it creates it. You get known, you become referable. People understand what you do and you will feel more confident and you will actually serve your clients better. And if you're still not convinced, think about this. Nike doesn't sell stilettos. They don't try to serve everyone. They're not a fancy stiletto shoe brand. They're a sports brand. Their niche is clear and that's why their messaging works. So if you're still trying to be everything to everyone and you're wondering why you're not landing any clients consistently, then this is your sign to take a step back and ask yourself, what kind of business do you really want to build? Who do you love working with? In what topic? In what industry? And where do you want to become the go-to name? Choosing a niche doesn't mean you can't evolve. It doesn't mean you can't change your mind later, but it does mean people actually know what to come to you for. And that's what makes your business stick, and that will be what makes your business scalable in the long term. So if you're stuck trying to figure out your niche, this is the kind of conversation we have inside the club. It's my low-cost community where we unpack strategy, mindset, communication, hiring, client onboarding, all the things that you need help with to scale your business. Zero BS, no pressure. It's just real support from real service providers. And if you're already clear on the niche, but your business systems are a little bit messy, don't forget to check out the client onboarding template pack. Everything you need is in there to start securing to clients, such as the proposal template, welcome packet, contract template, which I absolutely love. It's my favorite thing. Pitch deck, portfolio template, you name it, it's in there. You'll find both of those linked in the show notes. And thank you for listening. As always, I will see you next week.